So before working with Larry, I'd say Growth Plays was a successful marketing agency. We were growing, we were moving in the right direction, but we were vibe operated, meaning we did what felt good, we did what made logical sense, but we didn't really have systems to run the business or the data that we needed to make the right financial decisions for the business. So while we maybe made customers really happy and provided good services, we weren't operating in a data-backed way that allowed us to grow the business intentionally. We grew organically, but we didn't grow intentionally, and we didn't know what we needed to do to get to the next maturity stage. I'd say everything was running through me. There wasn't a clear leadership team, and it wasn't clear how decisions got made in the business. And if we wanted to pull a certain growth lever, we wouldn't know how to do that. We were hiring too late, and we didn't really think about growth, again, intentionally. We just grew because we were doing good work. But there was a lot more that we could be doing to grow a lot faster. And that's what working with Larry unlocked for us. I started my career, or I was very early in my career, at a company called Spire Interactive, where Larry was the COO. I got to see Larry lead that business at the executive level firsthand. I got to see the changes that he made in the business. And when Larry went out on his own, I knew I wanted to work with Larry because I saw the immense benefits that Larry brought to Spire. And granted, we're in a very different space than Spire is in. We're in a very different company than Spire. But just knowing that Larry could come into a business, evaluate how it's performing, see what it needs to do to grow. I know that he's run that playbook before with Spire and with other agencies. So I was really excited to get him in here and have him help us do the same thing. I'd say my favorite thing, two of my favorite things working with Larry is one, like any agency business, we have a lot of skeletons in the closet and a lot of warts, and Larry's seen it all, so nothing really surprises him. One of my favorite things Larry's ever said to me when I was having less than stellar day, Larry said, these aren't problems, they're opportunities. So I'd say Larry is very optimistic and looks at things from a how can we improve this and how can we grow versus we got real problems we have to deal with. But Larry is pragmatic, direct, very data-backed, and he comes up with concrete ways that we can move the business forward. And it comes from his years of experience working at Spire, his consulting with other agencies, his years of experience before in just general business before working with Spire. The thing I'll also say is I don't feel like we're getting some type of factory process where Larry comes into an agency and does the same thing for everybody. Larry has a very customized approach, and he is doing the things that make the most sense for us at the current time. We've introduced Larry to other agencies that could benefit from his services. And when we talk about how we work with Larry, it's totally different because we're totally different businesses. Larry focuses on the most important things for us at the time that he needs to focus on them versus having some standard playbook or standard operating system. But the very first thing that Larry did when we worked together is he went through all of our financials and he figured out where are we spending money, where are we not spending money, and how much wiggle room do we have in the budget to invest in growth right now, and what changes do we need to make so we can invest in it more in the future. So he really took a custom and tailored approach to working with us, and I think that kind of shines through everything that he does with us. It's never just, hey, it's week 10, so this is what we're doing. It's, hey, JH, looking at the business today, I think this is where we need to focus. And that's been really what we've needed as a business. Just the other day, Larry brought me detailed compensation plans for people on the team that are in charge of two very different but very important departments. And he mapped out where they're at today and the core KPIs that we can use to hold them accountable so they can grow their departments respectively. And it's, I've never put together a compensation plan for a senior leader that is running a department. I've done some basic stuff, but Larry's been there and done that. And to have his years of experience and tell me the pros and the cons and to shape it together and to walk away from that understanding, okay, now we have a new way that we can talk to two very senior people on the team that are in charge of a lot and have a lot of responsibility and compensate them appropriately based on how they help grow the business. That's not something I have a lot of experience in. So being able to lean on Larry for something like that, which is an area that he has quite a bit of experience in, has been immensely helpful, and it came at just the right time for us. So a lot of the advice that he has, I'd say it's very either maturity stage or scenario specific versus general advice that you could get out of reading any sort of how to grow an agency book. He drills down to the custom aspects that you're facing as a business and comes up with unique solutions that are right for you at that exact time versus a general, hey, here's a template I have for when you're having a compensation discussion. It's like, no, here's where the person's at, here's what they're in charge of, and here's the levers that they can pull to help grow the business, and here's how we should measure their performance and compensate them based on how they pull those levers. That's not something you're going to get out of a book. That's not something you're going to get out of a webinar. That's really only something you're going to get out of working with someone who's been there and done that and has been in the same seat that you're in today. Looking at what's changed for our business pre-Larry and now with Larry on board, I said earlier we were vibes operating. It was totally true. Like, I just looked at how much cash we have in the bank and how much cash we're spending every month. Now I have a detailed understanding of where we're spending money, resource allocation, which accounts are profitable, which accounts are unprofitable, which accounts need to be right-sized, where the team is losing time, where various departments need to improve. And I have clear goals on new revenue, retention goals. We have a real structure for a senior leadership team for how we manage the business. There's a real cadence and now a true growth motion inside the company versus just kind of growing organically, which was happening, but it was happening at a pace that I couldn't control. Sometimes we'd get a lot of inbound and we'd get new accounts. We couldn't take them all. Now there's more of like a clear, steady cadence to growth. And I have a tight-knit team of senior leaders that are responsible for different functions in the organization, which I didn't have before. So Larry helps stand up that aspect of the business, the senior leadership team. He drilled down into our financials, into the profitability at an account level, profitability at an employee level, and he let us understand where we have room to grow, what we need to cut, what isn't profitable, and how we can steer the business towards our true long-term growth goals. And we just didn't really have those before working with Larry. It was just, we got what we got, we grew and we grew. We took hits when, a large account left and said, okay, we need to make that up, but we didn't have a plan. Now we have a true plan and a cadence to the business. So if we see that an account's at risk, we understand how much revenue we need to close in the next however many days to mitigate that risk. We're just operating with not just like a safety net, but a strategic motion that really just helps the business propel itself forward versus me having to crank the wheel every time we need to grow. So growth has been distributed amongst a senior leadership team, and not just growth through like net new revenue through sales, but through retention, through operations, through people ops. And now we have 4 different people covering 4 different aspects of the business that are helping us move along versus everything running through me. So we've gone from purely founder-led to really having a leadership team that makes the business a more attractive asset over time. Larry has taken a lot of the weight off my shoulders of running this business, and he's helped me kind of bear the burden of being a solo founder. And I have recommended him to both other agency solo founders and co-founders. And I basically say, Larry's a guy who has been there and seen it all. He's helped scale an agency from 15 people to 150 people and beyond. So whatever problems that you're experiencing in the business today, he's likely dealt with it. And if he hasn't, he can at least put himself in your shoes and scenario model what that will look like. There's, I'd say, no problem that Larry's dealt with, whether it's hiring or pipeline or operations or strategy or up-leveling the entire business. He's been through and seen it all as he's helped another very respected agency rapidly scale. So whatever your growth goals are, whether it's improving profitability, improving top line, improving operations, improving culture, he's had to deal with it all, and he can likely help you do the same thing. If I had to put it all into one sentence, working with Larry has been very transformational for us. He's helped us move from a vibes operated agency that just did what felt right to a business that understands what it needs to do to grow and can steer itself to get there, and not be steered only by me, but be steered by an entire team of leaders that own individual aspects of the business and treat it as their own. So he's instilled a culture of ownership among a senior leadership team that takes a lot of the burden off of me and helps me focus on the most important things versus being pulled into a lot of fires. So we now have systems, metrics, accountability, things that we just wanted to have but didn't know how to build. Previously, I was the one that every senior member of the team turned to whenever there's a problem. Now they can turn to Larry, figure out how what they need to do to change the problem, address the problem, and then bring it to me so they don't just bring me a problem, they bring me a solution. And that's been a massive weight off my shoulders.